Our reading today is We Hold Hope Close by Julian Soto. In this community, we hold hope close. We don't always know what comes next, but that cannot dissuade us. We don't always know just what to do, but that will not mean that we are lost in the wilderness. We rely on the certainty beneath the foundation of our values and ethics. We are the people who return to love like a North Star and to the truth that we are greater together than we are alone. Our hope does not live in some glimmer of an indistinct future. Rather, we know the way to the world of which we dream. And by covenant and the movement forward of one right action and the next, we know that one day we will arrive at home. I am going to find the card in here that I think is the perfect one to start with, given what we just did. Of course, I can't find it right now. Okay. So the question was, do we pray to Jesus? And the answer is no. We as a group don't pray to Jesus. If you want to individually pray to Jesus, you are more than welcome to pray to Jesus. We don't tell you not to. But we as a group pray to something a little more nebulous, to be honest. I call it Spirit of Life and Love. Different people have different names for it. The next question that I'm going to go to from there, somebody said, if you believe in a God idea, how do you picture or conceive it? And this one I have an answer to. I do have a sense of, so what I say about that is that I believe that there is a creative force in the universe that I am comfortable calling God, because that's a word that translates for a lot of people. But my idea of that creative force in the universe is an ineffable spirit found in rocks and trees and water, and in relationships between people. Carter Hayward wrote that to God is a verb, and I really like that idea. It's probably as close to pantheism as anything else, the idea that God is in everything, and that is my belief. That's what works for me. I don't tell anybody else that that's what needs to work for them, but that's what works for me. And I like having something that I get to lean into a little bit, because sometimes I need something that I can lean into a little bit. From a Unitarian Universalist perspective, are we made by God, the Creator? And if so, is God the Creator within us by design? I think that's another question that you get to answer for yourself. This is a complicated thing about our religion, is that it's not easy. We do not give you the answers, expect you to memorize them by age 12, and not change them throughout your life. We think that's something that you get to decide. I do believe that there is a spark of the divine in all of us. And I will tell you that one of my favorite things that my mother ever said was, she said, "I knew that God was real when you were born, because that couldn't have just happened." How can we integrate different generations at church? Older members don't know the younger generation and vice versa. This is one of those things that we have ideas and really want to do and haven't had enough people to make happen. So let me tell you what I want to do, okay? I want to have friends between I want like an adopt a grandparent program. I want families in the church with younger kids to have an older person in the church and make matches between willing participants who are older people in the church and younger families. And I don't know how we start that. We have them send cards and stickers back and forth and then have a special coffee hour at the end where they sit together. I want somebody to help me make that happen. There are other ideas as well, but that's the one that is the most active in my brain right now, because I think it would be a lot of fun. Okay, anybody want to help? You know where to find me. How do you explain the connections and differences between Unitarian Universalism and Christianity? I often say Unitarian Universalism is the denomination that did so much heresy we stopped being Christian, but I don't know if that's accurate. It is not inaccurate. It is really not inaccurate at all. The next question, and I don't have the exact, I will find it, but somebody else wanted to know, did Jesus claim to be divine? And this is where Unitarianism began. Because the Unitarians say, if you read the Bible, you read the Gospels, Jesus never claimed to be divine. I'm going to give you a tiny little biblical history lesson here. The Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, were written by 4 different sources at different times. Matthew and Luke were the first ones, I think. And they were written about 30 years after Jesus' death. John was written another 50 years after that. But if you read the earlier Gospels, Jesus didn't claim to be divine. He claimed to be the Son of God, but in a child of God kind of sense. The Unitarians took that seriously. The Unitarians lost at the Council of Nicaea in 325, and that is why the Nicene Creed says we believe in the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, all one, separate but equal. That was a direct refutation of Unitarianism. This is our theological origin point. Universalism started in opposition to Calvinism, where Calvinism said that God hates all of us. We are merely sinners in the hand of an angry God. God would like to dangle us like a spider over the fiery pits of hell. And the Universalists said, that doesn't make any sense at all. You know, my favorite Universalist quote is, your child falls down and gets all muddy, and you pick him up and you give him a bath and you put clean clothes on him. Do you love your child because he is clean, or do you clean your child because you love him? Universalism says we care for what we love. That's that. We've got a lot of questions. The forum just discussed being comfortable and being complacent, sometimes the same, but what is the difference? Phew. I think we need a balance of both, and that's the tricky part sometimes. None of us are going to last very long if we are merely outraged and angry all the time. It's not a way to live. But the honest truth, my friends, right now is that none of us are going to last very long if we pretend that nothing is wrong and everything is okay. You got to balance it. Which hymn is the most likely to get stuck in your head? When I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. The answer would probably be different on a different day, but that's today's. What was a fundamental lesson you learned in either your religious studies or life lessons? One of the most important things I learned in seminary is from a class on pastoral care. And she had us take a piece of paper and rip it into, I think it was 16 pieces, but I can't remember the last group, so I'm going to say 12 pieces. On 4 of those pieces, you write down people you love. On 4 of those pieces, you write down senses, like sight or hearing or smell. And on 4 of those pieces, you write down activities that you enjoy. Now, turn them all over and take away 4. Now take away another 2. Now take away another 2. That's what aging is. I've never forgot that. My mind is a blank. What's a good question you wish would be asked? Because Vivian put in, the questions ranged from, Unitarian Universalism or parenting practices to what's your favorite dinosaur. I did ask Dees and Mika, my spouse, and my daughter, remind me what my favorite dinosaur is. And Mika said Maiasaura, which is the good mother lizard. So named because they found evidence that she didn't just hatch the eggs and then sent them off on their own, but they found older dinosaurs, older Maiasaura, in the nest, so that showed that she cared for them after they were born. Mika said that must be my favorite dinosaur. How will this current administration end? Your guess is as good as mine, friend. But I am hoping with efforts from all of us. And I like this one, which is suggestions for courteous and compassionate yet firm conversation with neighbors who aren't Trump supporters. And who are ardent Trump supporters. Wow, okay. Who are ardent Trump supporters. Yes. Who are ardent Trump supporters. Go Trump, yes. Suggestions for courteous and compassionate conversation with those people. I loved a Facebook post that I read from the Reverend Meg Riley a couple of days ago. And she said that she doesn't have much chance to practice this in her regular life. But she said if she did, she would want to listen first and then say, the part that bothers me the most is his statement that we aren't a caring and compassionate people. And she said she went to, I'm going to call it a state fair, I don't know what it was, something, and she ran into someone who was very right-wing and was talking, and that she listened for a while, and then she said that, and that person and her had this amazing 2-hour-long conversation, because most Americans, I really believe, want to be good people. I think most people, not Americans, but most people want to be good people. We don't, nobody wants the 5-year-old in bunny hat taken away on the street. No one, okay, you got a couple weird people, but most people don't want that. Really, Nancy, really, they don't. I don't believe they do. Stephen Miller is not, he doesn't count. most people want to be kind to each other. Most people want to love their neighbors. We have gotten so siloed that I think there are a lot of people who believe things that aren't true. Arguing truth is not the way to break through that. But I do think that Meg's idea about, I don't think that we are a people who don't have compassion anymore. I think that's a statement that will get a lot of buy-in from both sides. What is the hardest part about being a minister, or of being our minister, and the best part? Losing people I love is really hard, and we've done that a lot lately. Yeah. I have said a few times in the last year, it's like, damn it, this is the problem with loving so many people. Is that you are not all immortal, which is good. I really don't want anybody to be immortal, but it also hurts. And I really do, I just love you all. And that's a really good part about being your minister. I feel really lucky and blessed to get to have these relationships with people. You let me hold your babies. Yeah. I just love you all, and I have. And I hope to keep doing that for quite a while. What is the total operating budget for the church this year? And what is our fiscal year? The total operating budget for the church this year was $396,000. The total operating budget for the church next year is, I believe, $426,000. Our fiscal year runs July 1st to June 30th. That's the short answer. Did Jesus know he was the Son of God and or God? Like I said, Unitarians believe that he didn't necessarily know or believe that. Again, did Jesus think he was God? Did he want to be worshipped? Any evidence one way or another? Do we pray to Jesus? That's where I was looking for. Okay. I have been curious about referring to Unitarian Universalist congregation at Willamette Falls as a church. Why do the Unitarian Universalists in this organization, or call their organization a church? I always thought of church as a Christian construct. Officially, we are a congregation. We are the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Willamette Falls. It's a mistake that I fall into a lot. This building is a church. This building is a church. The people in this building are the congregation, and yet I am okay with expanding the definition of church to include any religious or faith congregation. So it's a word that works for me because it just sort of is in the zeitgeist and the vocabulary, I think. It's not a great answer, but it is the one I've got right now. What drew you to Unitarian Universalism? Why do I stay Unitarian Universalist? And if I could, what would I change in Unitarian Universalism? This goes along with what is your least favorite aspect of Unitarian Universalism? Excuse me. Honestly, I started going to a Unitarian Universalist congregation because my wife at the time and I moved to Rhode Island and were pregnant with our first child and thought a faith community was a good way to meet people. I really kind of wanted to be Jewish. That was what felt fairly good to me at that point, because I like the idea of a relationship with God without the intermediary of Jesus. But my wife needed and I also liked the Quakers. That also worked for me. My wife at the time really wanted Christian music without Christian lyrics. I probably could have gone to a United Church of Christ and been okay, but she really wanted Christian music without Christian lyrics, and so that leaves Unitarian Universalism. My least favorite aspect of Unitarian Universalism, which was especially true back then, is that we are much better at defining ourselves in terms of what we are not, and I don't like that. If I ask, or somebody asks me, what do you believe, or what is Unitarian Universalism, and the only thing that comes out of your mouth is, we aren't Christian, I have failed. I have failed if that is the first and only thing that comes out of your mouth about what does it mean to be Unitarian Universalist. I don't want to define us in terms of what we aren't, and I think that sometimes we have a tendency to do that. I stay Unitarian Universalist because I want to be with a group of people, and I have the great honor to lead a group of people who are just trying to be better people, who want to be more kind, more just, and more compassionate, who want to make this world a better place in the here and now, because we don't know what happens afterwards. That's what I love about Unitarian Universalism. That's what I believe Unitarian Universalism to be. That's why I stay. I had gone to a Unitarian Universalist church on and off for 4 years before I heard the 7 principles. I want to talk about our values. What do we do with our stories of suffering? It feels like the world today enforces forced positivity, and I don't want to trauma dump or bring people down, but also they say burdens shared are halved. When and where is the right time and place? I love that question. That's really cool. I'm going to give you a very specific example, and then I'm going to broaden it out. After I gave birth the first time and second time, I needed to tell my birth story to people who understood. I needed to process that event by telling the story of it, by writing the story of it, by figuring out how I told that story. It wasn't a story of suffering, but it was a big story that had a certain amount of suffering in it, but a happy ending. One of my favorite lines, one that my daughter quotes back, both of my daughters quote back to me, which I love, and I bet some of you will be able to finish this sentence. Just because someone somewhere has a brain tumor doesn't mean you never get to complain about your headache. You are always going to find someone who has suffered more than you. That doesn't mean your suffering is not valid. That doesn't mean you don't ever get to talk about it. It is important to tell our stories. It is important to tell our stories to people we trust. It is important to tell our stories. And I believe personally that telling our stories to people we trust, that having those conversations keeps us from living in those stories. Because while I guarantee someone has suffered more than you, I will also guarantee that you have suffered more than someone else. It's not a competition that you have suffered. That we all have losses and pain, and we get to talk about that. But it's best not to live there. What is my dream for the next big thing for this congregation? Those like adopt a grandparent program things that I've talked about. And we're going to do Greatest Wish for UUCWF in that same thing. What is my go-to karaoke song? Mary Chapin Carpenter's Down at the Twist and Shout. Saturday night and the moon is out, gonna head on over to the Twist and Shout. Find a two-step partner and a Cajun beat. When it lifts me up, I'm gonna find my feet. Would I be open to encouraging worship associates and others to share religious backgrounds and experiences with different world religions? Sure, yes. What's my favorite getaway spot on the Oregon coast? Yachts for vacation, Oceanside for familiarity. When and why were the speakers taken off the wall in an effort to make it easier for the choir to hear, and we're just doing constant attempts at improving the sound system. Is that right, Amy?
And better speakers.
And better speakers, yes. We have better speakers now. Favorite movie to watch again and again. This is a really weird thing, but I don't usually watch movies over and over and over again. Yeah. But there was a point where my kids every Saturday afternoon would watch Finding Nemo. Whatever you come from, what does that mean? I remember when we wrote that as a worship associate group at brunch, and whoever you are, wherever you come from, and someone wanted to add whatever you come from. And I think it was the sense that we tend to think of wherever as talking about place, and whatever can be broader than place. So wherever and whatever you come from, no matter what your background is, you are welcome here. Do I ever change my mind about the sermon the night before? This is probably the best. Okay, I'm going to have that for the last one. How does one find the balance of striving for justice and finding rest and relaxation for a peaceful life? We kind of answered that. When I feel overwhelmed, what helps me ground and keep going? Talking to friends and walking in pretty places. That's what I do. What are my thoughts on karma? I'm so sorry, because the first thing that comes to mind is it's a bitch, but I just think of the Indigo Girls song, how long till my soul gets it right? At least I know there'll be no nuclear annihilation in my lifetime, because I'm still not right. What is the most powerful statement to invite people from my retirement home to come to a Unitarian service? It's a group of people who just care about being kind and compassionate and working for justice. We're just trying to be better people. That's my favorite. Plus, it's a time to, particularly for someone from your retirement home, I really do believe that congregations are the most intergenerational spaces in our society, or that they can be. I think it's the best place to meet people of all different ages. And if I were living in a retirement home, that would be my number one reason to come to a church, and this one in particular. Who doesn't want to see cute kids? Do I ever change my mind about my sermon the night before? What tends to happen, so I am mostly a person who writes my sermon on Fridays and Saturdays. I tried to write them earlier in the week very briefly once when my internship supervisor wanted to see them on Tuesday. And I finally said, James, sermons that I write on Monday are bad. Sermons that I write on Friday and Saturday are pretty good. Don't make me do something that doesn't work. What I really, it's not so much changing my mind about it or having something finished and changing my mind, but what it really is when I have like a topic that I'm excited about and something so big happens in the world that I have to change my sermon the night before or 2 nights before. And that happens so damn often, it just bugs me. I want a world that is calm enough that I don't have to rewrite the sermon all the time. But rather than rewrite it, what I often end up doing is, my favorite one was Golden Girls and gun control. Because I was preaching on the Golden Girls along with a bunch of my colleagues about friendship and the power of friendship, especially as we age. And that was the weekend of the Sandy Hook shooting. And one could not address that. But I got to tell you that community is one of the best ways to create a world that doesn't have angry mass shooters in it. People who do actions like that usually, not always, but usually feel alone and shut out and like they don't have anyone. And if we create a world where everyone feels like they have someone, like we're in this together, that's the world I want to live in, friends. That's the world I want to live in. Blessed be and amen.